Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Morgan. This is my channel, Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to be doing my mid-year book freakout tag, as well as kind of letting you know, like doing a check-in, mid-year check-in on my goals. I'm going to be using the questions from my video last year, so I have that off to the side, and let's just dive right in. Question number 1, how is your reading going? So, pretty, like, okay, not great. I had a pretty good month in January. I read like 8 books. I really loved a lot of them, and then I didn't read for 3.5 months. Like, I did not finish, pick up, look at, listen to a single book for 3.5 months. And I think I need to accept that reading for me is highs and lows, and it's cyclical. It comes in waves, you know, high tide, low tide of reading, and I just have to be okay with that. I think I keep making goals that I want to read more consistently, and I want to read every day, and that just like is never going to be me. I don't do anything every day. Like, I'm not good at building habits like that. That's very difficult for me. The only thing I do every single day is walk my dog. Like, that's it. So I just need to accept that about myself, but after that, I do think my reading has been going well. I think especially since I started reading again in late May, I've been really, that's the word again, consistent, but I have had a regular, persistent interest in picking up new books after I finish them, which is really all you can ask. Question number 2, best book you've read so far this year, and that is like, it's kind of a tie between 3 books. So let me just say that I think the book that got me most excited from the very first page was Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker-Martin. One of my favorite first chapters, prologues, whatever, I have ever read in my entire life. It captured me. I was obsessed with it. Page 1. This is about a bunch of kids in the 90s who are sent to conversion camp, and there is something not quite right with the people there, and it is horror. I saw it described as extreme horror. I don't think I know what extreme horror is. This was gross and horrific, and I did have to put the book down and be like a couple times, but like I don't know what aspects make it extreme horror. It's definitely gross and violent and angry and very, very queer, and I just absolutely like fell in love with it. But also in the other genres, you know, that I read, I loved The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. This is a queer romance between 2 childhood friends who dated and then broke up, and now 3 years later they're traveling through Europe together on a food and wine tour, and it is so fucking good and special. And then also, really big shout out to What My Bones Know by Stephanie Fu. This was recommended by Sarah Shower online. I saw her make like some TikToks about it and mention it on their Instagram story, and it's a memoir. The subtitle, I think, is a memoir on healing from complex trauma. So the author is diagnosed with complex PTSD in her early 30s, and then it kind of documents both her childhood, which was extremely traumatic, and the 2 years following that diagnosis, and the healing process and learning about what traumatic PTSD or complex PTSD is. This was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Like, I cannot recommend this memoir enough. It is really difficult, especially in the first part when she is like, I'm going to tell you about my childhood and it's not good, and if it's hard for you to read, it's okay to skip this section. And it was very difficult to listen to. I listened to the audiobook, which she reads. Phenomenal book. Next is best sequel I've read this year, and that is going to go to Last Devil to Die by Richard Osman, my man. This is the 4th and, for right now, last book in the Thursday Murder Club series, which follows a group of 4 friends who live in a retirement community together, and the series starts and they just kind of get together on Thursdays to discuss cold cases until someone who is connected to their retirement community is murdered, and they start investigating, and it is so delightful and wonderful and funny, like very funny. I really recommend reading the audiobooks of these. I absolutely love this. Sobbed so fucking hard when I read it. So good. Love it. Love it. Best sequel by far. Then it's favorite reread. I've only read one book this year. I don't have my nice copy, so please enjoy my coverless copy of Little Women. I read this in January, and by default of being my only reread, it is my favorite reread, even though I thought it was fine. Like, it's good. It's well written. There were parts of it that really hit emotionally. There were parts of it where I was like, all right, we get it. The Bible. But I did like this. I gave it like 3.5 stars. So yeah, I didn't mind reading this. It was good. I'm glad that I reread it. I still need to watch the movie, either one of the movies. I've never seen them. Genre I've been loving or reading the most. I have had a pretty even spread of genres this year, although I will say tied for first place of like most books I've read in each genre are mystery thriller and nonfiction, which are two genres that I would say are not my favorite, but I guess I've been reading a lot of them. I will say I've been having more success with the nonfiction than the mystery thriller. But I specifically want to mention I've been really feeling and excited to read horror this year. And I know that I like horror and I've read it a lot in the past, and like that's not a surprise, but I've really not been that inspired to pick up romance lately. And I love romance. I would say confidently in the past that it is my favorite genre, but I definitely feel like horror is not overtaking, but definitely challenging for first place spot. I just love it. I just love it so much. I think it's so fun and interesting, and the concepts that it explores are just like, I'm really into it. So horror I've been really enjoying reading this year. Next is new releases I haven't read yet but want to, and I have 2 right here. First, horror, What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. This is the sequel to What Moves the Dead, which was one of the, I think the first book that I read last year that I finished in 2023, and I really, really liked it. It was 4 stars. It was a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's tale, Fall of the House of Usher, and I haven't read that, but I really, really enjoyed What Moves the Dead. This is What Feasts at Night. And I'm interested to see how it expands, because I think the first book like does finish off that retelling. So this is just a completely new original like continuation of the story of that book. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I really liked the mushroom stuff, and it had some really cool end pages. The first one has bunnies or hares, and this has a moth to a flame, so I'm interested to get to this soon, especially since it is so short. And then I also have, because I can never answer with just one book, You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastien. I've never read Cat Sebastien, but I've heard pretty good things about this. I've also gotten really into baseball in the past like 12 months, so I really wanted to read this, and it came out a couple weeks ago, and it just looks cute. It's about a baseball player and a journalist in the 1960s, so I'm, fingers crossed, hoping I really like it. Then it is most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, and I have a bunch here. I honestly have not been keeping track of like what releases are coming out this year. I've just kind of like been going with the flow, but because I was gonna do this question, I was like, let me look in like the new releases section on Goodreads to see like what's coming out. So I found out about all of these like 10 minutes ago, and so I have 6 books that I'm gonna really quick fire mention. There's not one that there is one that I'm most excited for, but I'm pretty evenly excited about all of these. So first, We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. I just mentioned he writes the Thursday Murder Club, and I'm obsessed with him and his humor. This is a little bit more espionage-y. I believe it's about a father-in-law, daughter-in-law duo who solve crimes, and he could write anything. I will read anything that he writes. And then I also have Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White that I wanted to mention. This is the 3rd young adult novel from the author who wrote Hell Followed With Us, and it's queer, crunchy, like gross horror, and I'm really excited about it. This one is kind of like Appalachia vibes. I haven't read his second book, The Spirit Bears Its Teeth, but I also want to read that. It's just already out, so it's not like an anticipated read. I just really like what he's doing, like his project, you know what I mean? At least I think I do. I really liked his first book. I gave it 5 stars. So this is his 3rd book. It's his 3rd YA, and then his next book after this one is going to be an adult horror. So love it. And then I also wanted to mention Heavenly Tyrant by Xiran Zhao. This book has been delayed a bunch. I don't know if it's actually coming out this year. Like, I don't know, but I hope it does. It's a sequel to Iron Widow, which I loved when I read it. So fingers crossed it actually comes out. I know that there's been some complicated things with their publicist, maybe punishing them for speaking out for Palestine. We'll see. I hope that their book gets to come out because it's a really interesting series and I want to support them. And then Freya Marske, who wrote the Marvelous Light Last Binding trilogy that I absolutely adored last year, is coming out with a new standalone fantasy romance called Swordcrossed. Obsessed. I'm so excited. And then last, this one is the one that I really just found out about, had not heard anything about. Catherynne and Valente is coming out with a second book in the space opera series, like universe, called Space Odyssey. I don't know if it's like an actual continuation of the series or if it's just like a new like story just like set in the same universe. But I adore space opera. I think it is so fun and interesting and compelling, and it made me cry. And it's very like, what is humanity if not art and love and creation and just like all of that kind of bound up together? And I'm obsessed. And also very funny. It's definitely truly in the spirit of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which it gets compared to a lot, and for good reason. Biggest disappointment of the year is unfortunately Dead Dead Girls by Nekesa Afia. It's not that I had like heard amazing things about it. My expectations were really high. I honestly had not heard anybody talk about this, but I picked it up. I bought it because the dedication was so funny, and I was hoping that the book would kind of keep that energy. So the dedication right there is, to Aaron Tveit, I'm free on Thursday night and would like to hang out. Please respond to this and then hang out with me on Thursday night when I'm free. And I was like, yes, girl, you get it. And it's like a sapphic mystery set during the Harlem Renaissance in New York. And I was like, there's so many cool things that could be happening with this. And unfortunately, it really didn't deliver on any of the things that I wanted. Like, it is a sapphic book, and she does have a girlfriend. The girlfriend's barely in the book, and she's not a very interesting character. She just feels very flat. There is a murder, and she's working with the police to try and solve the murders and, like, the serial killer, but, like, she's not really investigating clues. She just keeps every other chapter being like, she knew something wasn't right. She could feel that something wasn't right. And there's only so many times I can believe that you just have these incredible instincts or a hunch. You know what I mean? So this unfortunately really, really didn't do it for me. I really wish it had. And I'm not like holding it against this author forever. I won't be continuing this series, but if she comes out with anything else, I would read it. But definitely not this series again. I think maybe she just needs a little time to grow. This was a debut. It feels like a debut, which I'm never a fan of saying that because there are some incredible debuts, but it does feel like somebody who maybe needed another pass of edits. Let me say that. So that was pretty disappointing. Biggest surprise, I think for biggest surprise, I want to go with The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I read this in January, and I'm going to say it's a big surprise because it is so divisive on whether or not people even like it at all. And so I was kind of like, I don't know. I picked it up on a whim, like had no expectations really, and I ended up like obsessed. I couldn't stop telling my friends about this fucking bonkers book that I was reading, and every single thing that happened, I was like, you'll never believe what just happened in my book. And so it was just such a fun thing to read. Like, I had such a fun time reading it, and it definitely just like surprised me. I think maybe that started my like, maybe I should get into thrillers moment. And I don't think I should get into thrillers. I think I don't like most thrillers, but I like thrillers like that. And I really liked that. Next is favorite new author, either a debut author or new to you. And I've only read one of her books, so we'll see if I like her other book. But I have to go with Gretchen Felker-Martin because I just loved this book so much. And I did immediately, like within the same week, honestly, before I was even done this one, I bought this. And this is her first novel. I don't really know. I think it's kind of like zombie stuff and two women traveling around New England hunting feral men and harvesting their organs, if you know what I mean. And I just think I'm going to like it. I think I'm going to love it. And I can't wait to read it. I need to read it this year as soon as possible because I just think I'm going to like anything she ever writes. So immediately new favorite author. No questions asked. I'm really trying to not just keep mentioning the same books over and over again, but new favorite character, both Theo and Kit from the pairing. Like, I'm sorry, but no, I'm not. I want to be friends with them. I want to be their third. Like, invite me in. I'm fine with it. Like, let me be your friend, please. I'm obsessed with them. I think they're both so interesting, so complex, so compelling. And I know that it's kind of one of those, like, I'm worried people are going to read it and be like, one conversation could have fixed the whole plot. It's just they're not communicating. And it's like, yes, but sometimes you know someone so well. Like, they know each other so well. Those are the hardest people to have conversations with, you know, because you think you know what they're going to say, and they think they know what you're going to say, and you think you know how they think you're going to, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes those are the hardest people to communicate with because they actually do know you better than you know yourself sometimes. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, ugh, yes. I love them. For book that made me cry, I think the book that made me cry the hardest this year is definitely The Last Devil to Die. Sobbed so hard. So hard. I actually only cried to 4 books this year, which I think is like, it seems a little low, but I didn't read for 4 months, or for like 3 months in the middle of all that, so I don't know. But I cried to Little Women, The Pairing, What My Bones Know, and The Last Devil to Die. So those are the 4. That's my laundry alarm, sorry. I love when books make me cry. Then, flip side of that, book that made you happy, I have to go with If You'll Have Me by Eunnie. This is an adorable graphic novel that I read a couple weeks ago that I liked so much that I went out and bought it yesterday. Good, Barnes & Noble, not Goodreads. Can't buy things at Goodreads. And it is so cute. It's about these 2 girls in college getting to know each other, becoming friends, and maybe developing feelings for each other. It's so cute. I was giggling, screaming, blushing, kicking my feet. Like, I just love them. Their names are Momo and PG, and this made me happy. I bought it. I keep trying to get my girlfriend to read it, and she's like when she comes over to hang out, and I'm like, well, I don't want to have us sit down in silence and read for an hour when we can like watch a movie, like talk and like have dinner and like hang out. But you should read this. But my whole just went back to the library, so I don't have it on my iPad anymore. So I bought it. I am gonna try to make her read it. So it's so cute. It's so pink and colorful, and I just love it. And it's so funny because PG is very hot, and this is when we first see her, and I texted Grace and I was like, oh my god, hot girl alert, and she thought it was funny. So If You'll Have Me by Eunnie, if you're looking for sweet queer romances, highly recommend. This is really cute. I know it takes place in college, but I do think it's technically YA, so it's not like too racy. If you're looking to give it to a teenager or something, I think it would be great for that age range. I just absolutely love it. And then what's next? Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I think I'm gonna go with, I went to Ireland to see Taylor Swift, and I really like this cover of Follow Me to Ground. It has these beautiful, what is it called when things are shiny? Don't know, forget. Lungs on it, and they kind of also look like roots. They're roots in the shape of lungs, and so I think that it's just really beautiful. This is Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. I know that Kayla from Books and Lala has read it, but I bought it because it was by an Irish author, and I was trying to buy Irish books when I was in Ireland. So I just think this is really stunning. I just like it. And what's next? What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Everything I've mentioned that I haven't read yet. But I also think that's such a cop-out answer. Here's a real answer. I would like to read Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle before the end of the year. I really, really loved Cuckoo, and this is a similarly conversion camp-based horror. I don't think that they have like the same horror element. I do think that they're different, but I do think that I will like them. I do think I'll like this one because I liked this one. You know what I mean? I already kind of thought I would like this one. I just haven't gotten to it yet, but I really want to read this as soon as possible. My cousin literally texted me today and was like, have you read Camp Damascus? Because I posted on I posted on my Instagram story that I read this and I loved it. And she was like, I really, really liked this. I think you'd like it because you like this one. And I was like, okay, recommendation taken. Let's go. I think that's it for the mid-year book freakout tag. Really quick, I want to tell you about my goals for this year because I didn't really do a video about that at the beginning of the year. I will say, I think I just have to throw away, like, I don't want TBR goals. I'm not interested in TBR goals of like, these are 5 books I want to read this year. It's like, if I'm only reading 50 books a year, I don't want to pick out 10% of those books before the year has even started. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not appealing to me. I don't really even know how people do like those 24 and 24. If you read 100 books, that you're picking out a quarter of the books that you read in an entire year before the year even starts. That leaves like no room for like your mood or new books coming out or like getting gifts or going to the library just to browse. You know what I mean? And that just like stresses me out. So I would like, on Goodreads, my reading goal is 75 books. And in that case, I am currently 14 books behind schedule. But on Storygraph, I have it set to 50 books. And in that, I'm 1 book behind schedule. So depending on like kind of how the year goes, I will adjust my goal as needed. So I would like to read 75. I would like to read 100 books every year, but you know, I don't think that's really reasonable. So I'd like to read 75. I just need to kind of stay interested. Or I'd like to read 50, in which case I think that's kind of manageable because that's like 1 book a week for the rest of the year. So, you know, I'm not too stressed about that. I have to say, I know people like Storygraph because of their charts. I hate the Storygraph statistics. It's none of the stuff I care about, and it is so subjective. Like, the thing that really gets me is I don't think anybody knows what a slow-paced, mid-paced, and fast-paced book is, including me. Like, I don't know. But sometimes I'll look at that, and I'll look at what people have said is my slow-paced book, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? One of my slow-paced books this year is literally Sweet on the Greek, which is like a 200-page smutty romance that I read in January. You're telling me that's slow-paced? What are we talking about? You know what I mean? So I hate the stats on there. That's not what I use it for. I actually don't like using Storygraph that much. I feel like it's not complicated. It's just like, I know everybody hates on the Goodreads like user experience, but I don't mind it, you know? I'm used to it. But I really love how Storygraph does its reading challenges. The home screen with all of the progress bars and then clicking on them, seeing all of the prompts, seeing what other people have added to each of the prompts, the way that you can add books to the prompts. It is my favorite way to track reading like challenges that I have found. I've tried paper, I've tried spreadsheets, and I just really, really like how Storygraph does it. So I will continue to do Storygraph literally just for that. So I am doing 4 different things this year. I'm okay not finishing these. I want it to be clear, I'm not really a completionist like that. Like, it'll annoy me if I don't, but it's not gonna kill me. I feel like some people are really like, if I set a challenge, I really want to meet it. And so I'm like, that's not really my vibe. So first, I'm trying to read a book that starts with each letter of the alphabet from A to Z. I am currently 58% done. So I've read 15 out of the 26 letters. This is one of the challenges where I'm like, I'm just gonna read what I read and see how it works out. And then towards the end of the year, in like the last like 2-3 months of the year, then I will be like, what do I need to get to? What can I like look on my shelves and see what I have, but I'm not prioritizing this when I'm choosing my books. Do you know what I mean? Similarly, a little bit, the Buzzword Reading Challenge, which used to be the Buzzwordathon run by Kayla at Books and Lala. That has 1 prompt that is assigned to each month, and you can read it in the month. I'm more of just like, there's 12 prompts, and then throughout the year, whenever I read one that applies, I will apply it to the prompt. Currently, I'm 50% done, so I've read 6 out of 12 prompts. This one, again, I'm gonna kind of let be a little bit looser. Like, if I start a book, I'll check to see maybe if it fits, but I'm not gonna be like, what do I need to read from this until I get to the end of the year, a little bit closer. The other 2 I need to be a little bit more mindful about. So the other 2 challenges I want to do, and I do this, I kind of every year like try to join this one, but it's a little harder. The Storygraph Genre Challenge 2024. So it's 10 different prompts, all different genres. So the other ones have been a little bit more self-explanatory. It's like, the buzzword is like specific words or phrases or kind of words that are in the titles, alphabet challenge, whatever. The Storygraph Genre Challenge is like a nonfiction book, a historical fiction set before 1900, a biography about music, or a manga, a thriller or crime novel in translation. So it's like trying to get you to diversify your genres. So this one, again, I think is a little bit more like, I know I'm going to read a thriller or crime novel in translation, so I don't need to seek that out, but I am going to need to seek out a middle grade with queer representation, or a short story collection by a Black author, because I just don't really read short story collections, or a debut literary or contemporary fiction novel, just because I don't really read that genre as much, you know what I mean? So this one is a little bit more intentional. And then the one that I'm really prioritizing when it comes to picking my books is the Diverse Baseline Challenge. I don't know who the original creator is. I found out about this challenge because I saw it on TikTok, but it is 36 prompts to, specifically they're assigned 3 per month, but I'm throwing that out the window and I'm just kind of like trying to fulfill all the prompts when I read the books that are relevant, rather than being like, I have to read this prompt in this month. I already missed 3 months of reading, so like that was never gonna happen. But these are specific prompts where it's like, some of them are more general. In February, a prompt was read a book by a Black author, or things like that. But then there's more specific ones, like a historical fiction novel by a person of color, a translated book by a person of color, a book by a person of color about chronic illness or pain, a book, and these are all by people of color, so I'm just going to skip that part. A book about colonization, a book by an East Asian, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander author, a book with a teenage main character, you know, things like that, where it's like really trying to get you to not only read books by authors of color, but also diversify the kind of books that you're reading by authors of color. So I'm just like trying to use this to really focus in. I feel like every year one of my goals is to read like 50% or less white authors, so that half of my reading is by authors of color. Currently, not doing too hot. I'm at 37% authors of color, so it's about like a 60-40 split. So I need to work on that. So that's kind of where I'm at with my goals. I right now am, this is the one that I'm also the most behind on. I'm 10 prompts out of 36 for the Diverse Baseline Challenge. So I really need to get on that. This year, like I said, it's like a 60-40 right now. I'm working to get that up to 50-50. I've been doing pretty well in like books with queer characters. 40, it's another 60-40 split. So 60% of the books that I've read so far this year have had queer characters, either main characters or side characters. But of all the books that I've read this year, 40% have none, 40% have queer main characters, and then I have like 10%, or sorry, 50% have queer main characters, and then 10% have queer side characters. So I'm really happy with that. I don't know. I'd like to finish more series that I've kind of been in the middle of. I'm really not good at reading series. I kind of drift off, or I binge them every once in a while. But I did put together a spreadsheet that I found online, and I think I have 36 series that I'm in the middle of that I'm still interested in reading, and completing. So I would like to maybe get a start on addressing that. So we'll see how it goes. Trying my best out here. And I just love books, and I love spreadsheets, and I love statistics, and I just think it's all so fun. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if I convinced you to read any of these books, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!